some of our West Coast reps like Ferrando and Weinbarger that go back to the Boone Nationals right now with Dotson and Laney. Don't be surprised if you see Dotson and Laney somewhere in the top 5 or 10. They were awesome there last year. Gray Ferrando was Oregon's best rep, and I think he finished, I want to say, 8th or 9th, and he came out of the B. He had to race his way in. It was one of the most wild races I've ever seen to get into a feature. It was an awesome show, but I wish those guys all the best. I want to see those guys do well. Be cool to see a West Coast guy go back and get a top 5 or pull off a miracle and get the win against those guys,
Got to get the Northwest back on the map again.
Well, that's the thing. I've said it a million times, is this is the most untapped region for talent. There are so many talented drivers here on the West Coast, not just the Pacific Northwest. I'm talking about the West Coast. You look at California and Oregon and the talent that is in those 2 states, whether it's late models or modifieds or street stocks, hobby stocks, American stocks, doesn't matter. There are guys that can drive race cars, and there's not many guys that get the recognition out here because it's the West Coast.
Right.
It's a shame. It's a shame. But do you guys have anything in particular that you want to talk about, Nina?
Yes.
I know you've been biting. You've been chomping.
I do. I had the best time this weekend. I'm just thoroughly impressed with how welcoming everybody was this trip.
Yeah.
The second day, everybody seemed more like family-oriented. Everybody was talkative, friendly. And the shenanigans I started on turn 3 when we were waiting for the races.
That was all her fault.
Dude, I
That
love
was
those
all my
pictures.
fault.
I was there when that was going
I went
on.
over.
That was fun.
What is he? I'm not good with the names because I don't talk to anybody. Tricky Ricky?
Tricky Troy
Tricky
Folger.
Troy. Yeah, I popped off on him to do some jumps, and then we just started pulling everybody
Started
in.
a party.
I really, really, really enjoyed your pictures
was fun.
this time, too. Yeah.
It was a good time. Everybody's very
The
friendly.
redraw pictures,
Yeah.
tons of great feedback on those.
Yeah. It was very enjoyable. How
I still think
friendly.
the shenanigans were fun.
They were.
I
I still think there was somebody in a golf cart. They should have just jumped it like we were telling them to.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh,
one of my
Bronze
favorite
pit.
moments.
Yeah.
They were,
One of my favorite moments in the R. Charles was actually bringing the top 8 from each class of the sport mods and the modifieds to the front stretch to do the redraw.
That was fun.
I have so much fun messing with those drivers and the fans. Who was it? Somebody switched
Who's the one that gave up the pole? Somebody gave up the pole.
No, it was taken. Somebody traded. It was somebody traded
I
with.
thought they traded it back. I wish I could remember. I'd have to
Anyways,
go back and
someone
look at your video.
whoever decided to trade gave up the pole, but we were late in the game
They did a lot of trading.
for the mods, and the pole was still open, and I want to say it was
first place and sixth place was open.
Yeah, it was down to the end.
It was down
well,
to
there was
first
3
place or
spots
sixth.
open when this happened. It was first, 6, and 8.
First
And
we got
I
down
want to
first and
say
eighth.
it was Orsburn went to open his. No, it wasn't Orsburn. Anyway, someone, as I'm pulling the chip out of the envelope, they were like, because they knew they gave up the pole. Right? They figured they did, and they said, inside row 1. And I'm messing with the crowd and with the drivers, and I look at the chip, and I said, got the inside. They're looking at me. I said, you got the inside all right. The inside of the 4th row for the number 7 spot. And I showed them. They were like, oh. So that left 1 and 8 open. The pole and who ended up with the pole? I want to say it was
That guy. I can't remember his name though.
it was DeVolder.
What's that?
Shane DeVolder in the 44 had the pole.
I need to write this stuff down. I don't remember anything. It's terrible. Corey,
I can't
you
remember
remember
what I had
everything.
for breakfast.
No
It's
kidding.
hard to remember this
What did
stuff.
I cook for dinner tonight? I think we're going to eat here pretty soon.
Cheerios. It's lasagna.
I thought it was Raisin Bran.
Ew.
I loved that whole.
That was fun.
During all that, every driver gets to pick an envelope from Sandy, and I tell them, do not open your envelope. And as the 8th person gets what's left over, We go back to the first person who originally drew. And I told them, now you have the option of keeping your envelope, okay, or you can trade. And the first person to draw in the sport mods was Marissa Henson. And she thinks about it and makes the decision to keep her envelope. Okay? There were a few people that traded in the sport mods, more so than in the modifieds. The modified drivers got to watch that first round of redraw. And some of them didn't like what they saw with, guys losing spots or trading away, whatever. So, remember, the first person to draw was Marissa Henson. And she didn't trade her envelope. And as we went to open, I said, okay, open it up and do not let anybody see it. So she pours it in my hand. And I walk away so nobody can see it. And I look at it. I turn back and I look at her and I just shake my head. And she's looking at me with,
Yeah,
here's
she's
this pretty
like,
little
"Oh my
17-year-old girl, and I'm just looking at her. I'm just like, and she's looking at me like, oh no, like she just drew the 8th spot. And I said, race fans, Marissa Henson in the number 17M will start on the inside of row number 1. And she drew the pole, and the crowd just erupted. She led every lap. She led every lap, and there was a couple of people that traded, and things.
It was fun though.
I couldn't believe how many teams were so supportive of her out there too. That
I think
were competing against her.
Well, it was like Nina said a couple months ago. Everybody was, they were as serious business as it was on day 2. I think people came together to make things happen, and we're very respectful of who we put cameras on. We always go and we get permission, say, hey, listen. We'd like to, mount up on your car. If you guys will, allow us, we'll follow the rules that IMCA sets. Cameras looking backwards, cameras looking forward. You cannot have cameras on the driver or anywhere where it shows hands on the steering wheel.
Or suspension.
Or anything showing
yes.
suspension of any kind. If the camera is mounted in that position, IMCA will disqualify that car. So we always mount our cameras behind the fuel cell looking backwards. Or
on the down tube behind the driver.
Right?
Okay.
Looking forward where you can't see the driver. Because you cannot see, you can tell what a car is doing by the driver's hand. But you cannot see the driver. We make sure we put that where you can't see the driver because we're not trying to get anybody disqualified. So I went to Marissa Henson, and she was the first one we made the decision to put cameras on. And I said, hey, guys, we'd like to put cameras on your car. We think you're going to run well. We'd like to put cameras on your car. We'll make sure that they're mounted in a position where you're not going to get disqualified. And they were like, yeah, sure, go ahead. Not a problem.
I think you put them on the back, or you would have had just open space.
There would have been nothing to look at.
Nothing to look at except the
her and her dad said, yeah, go ahead. So we mounted up on them. And in the same race, we were mounted on Mike Medell. So we had the front, and then we had a guy in the back moving forward. Just happened to where, we don't know where these guys are going to start when we put cameras on. It was before anything's posted. And Medell had a great run going through, passing cars. That's going to be a great highlight. It's going to be a great highlight watching Jordan Broughton and the rest of the guys try to get by her and can't do it.
Right.
Very, very interesting how she won that race. So we've got two good cars with good camera angles, one leading the, showing the whole pack, and then Medell passing cars. It's going to be fun to watch and edit that down. And then we had cameras on the back of Andy Freeman's car, which DeVolder got into the back of and stacked everybody up. So we've got that view. And in that same race, we were also mounted up on
so I got the list.
The 5N of Derek Nance, who ran up front for a while. He was running the top 5, had a good angle of that. And then we also were mounted on the 49 of Troy Folger and the 44 of DeVolder. So in that race, the modifieds, we were mounted on DeVolder and Troy Folger, who were both caught up in that deal. And who else were we mounted up on the A mods?
Let's see here.
DeVolder, Folger, and Nance. So we were all right there, and they were all three at one time. All three of those cars were in the top 5. We're going to get some great racing action off those cameras. It's going to be fun to watch. We'll get that up as soon as we can. Overall, I think it was a great weekend.
This was sad.
You're right. The deal with Trevor Tiffy was absolutely. That was on the lap number 1 of day number 1 of the feature for the sport mods, the 19 car. Destroyed. That car is absolutely destroyed. 5 races on that car, and that dude,
2019 Rayburn chassis.
That dude worked overtime, saved his vacation pay. There wasn't anybody else that put $1 into that car but him. He wanted to do it on his own. He's got sponsors. One sponsor we talked to at breakfast at our hotel actually sponsors him $500 a year. But to buy that car, he saved up all of his overtime, all of his vacation pay, everything to buy that car. He got 5 races out of it, and it was annihilated. That thing was twisted front, back. I mean, he hit that, and we've captured that video. He hit that wall so hard, and my first concern was the driver. When you see somebody hit at that angle that hard and watch that car twist and fold up the way his did, it was a serious wreck. And we got him in the booth. Actually, Gary brought him over and did an interview with him to let the fans know, hey, I'm all right, and we talked to him about the wreck. Before that, prior to him going on the air with us, we had a conversation with him, and he basically asked, hey, what happened? What did you see? And I said, man, you came out of turn 4. The car was sliding, like you were drifting. It looked like you were going to get into the car. And this is what I was honest with him. This is what I saw. This is what I told him. This is what I saw from my angle. You were sliding. The back end was hanging out, coming on the straightaway. It looked like it was going to hook up, and you were going to get in the car next to you. I said, from what I saw, you lifted the throttle. That car squatted on the left rear, and it turned that car straight into the wall at full speed. Shot him up sideways, barely missed the flagman. Goes across the flagman's booth, which is like a hole. It's like a cage built on top of the wall in the fence. Slides across there, slams down, goes back into the wall, and comes to a rest. Bent and twisted, all kinds of. I mean, there's nothing on that chassis.
I think you said that the right front tire was a foot off the ground and the trailer was on flat ground.
I would believe that.
Oh, wow.
As hard as he hit that front stretch wall with that right front corner, it bent it up. Because what people don't realize when you sit from the grandstands, until you get on that racetrack and look at Southern Oregon, the wall is not straight up and down like a lot of racetracks. That wall tilts back towards the fans just a little bit, and then on the top, it's bent at a 90, so it catches you as you come up if you were to get in that wall. And that's exactly what happened. He hit that wall. It shot him after it bent the front end. It shot him up in the air, and then it caught him, and it tipped the car. I honestly thought the guy was going over. I thought Tiffy was going over, and we were going to see another Orsburn deal like we saw at the first race of the year, upside down and flipping down the front stretch. We'll have video of that posted this week too. But we brought him up in the tower. We had a great conversation with him. He let everybody know, yeah, I'm all right. The car's destroyed. A couple bumps and, bruises, whatever. The next day we got there, and him and his mom actually came up into the tower and talked with us. Said, hey, good to meet you guys. We're heading back. We're not going to stick around for day 2. Get a jump on the traffic. And they left. But, man, I just felt so bad for that kid.
Well, I talked to his mom for quite a bit, too.
Neat lady.
Very, very, and being a mom myself, of course, she's like, well, I was kind of hoping he'd say he was done.
Yeah.
Because
not going to happen.
As a parent,
No.
I know, but when you see something like that, how many times did we watch the replay? That kid hit hard. And I just felt for the mom, of course.
Oh, he hit. It was brutal.
The sound it made.
Yeah, well,
I
when you
could
hear
hear
something
out
like
in the
that over
pits.
the engines in the tower, you know it's hard.
That's true.
And the sparks that were flying, it was one heck of a show. Dave did a fantastic job of capturing that on video. We'll get that up. We'll get that edited down and put that clip up for him and his family to take a look at. And we've Campos' car was tore up too. Another deal that that was going on into turn 1.
He was worried that they weren't going to let him race, but everything was secure on that car.
Yeah, it was just a big hole in
It was
the right front.
It was just pushed in all the way through the cage. It was completely secure, but he was worried that they weren't going to let him run because of the damage. But
yeah, there was some wild.
It was a good weekend. It was a good weekend.
It was a great weekend of racing.
got a great picture here.
You know, that
Yeah,
couple,
here's
let me tell
some.
you,
Yeah,
that is the cutest
I
couple
know.
on the